Black Clover has revealed so many new things, and you know us. Something like this is a paradise for us to find new predictions. We have analyzed this new Black Clover chapter in the best possible way. Today we talk about whether Beelzebub Lily killed Asta or teleported him. If he was teleported, then was it Sister Lily who saved Asta, or was it Beelzebub Lily who followed Lucy's order? If so, then why and where was he teleported to? We also explain what exactly happened to Sister Lily and why it is likely that her soul merged with Beelzebub's soul, and that is why she still behaves the way Sister Lily used to. Also, we explain why Asta's Demon Destroyer sword, while not bringing Sister Lily back, could turn Beelzebub back into a devil if used on Sister Lily's body. So very dangerous. And many other interesting things, such as a possible hint that Asta and Lily might be related. How many devils exist in total? A little hint, it could possibly be well over millions. Furthermore, we also talk about the possibility of the 7 deadly sins appearing in Black Clover in relation to the 7 remaining devils of Qliphoth in the 7 days until Judgment Day, just as Lucius mentioned. We also talk about Paladins and what they are in history, legends, and so on. There are a lot of references to Black Clover. You see, a lot is happening in this review, so let's not waste any time. If you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video. Let's go! Asta is lying half dead on the floor after only one attack from Lucius in his true devil form. And I know that Lucius used the term Paladin for this form, but that doesn't mean that Paladin is also a race. In fact, we don't even know if it's not just a title that Lucius gave specifically to Sister Lily. They could still be angels. I will explain that in a moment. As always, Asta shows nowhere near the will to give up. The next panel shows Lucius, but before we talk about what he says, let's quickly talk about his left hand. It looks like some kind of magic is happening there. Of course, it could be that he's just sort of removing Asta's blood. However, there's also the possibility that Lucius may have been injured by Asta's anti-magic. If Asta managed to manifest his anti-magic outside his body like he did against Lucifero. With this, Tabata could have led us to believe that Lucius was cleaning himself up. But in fact, this could have been a foreshadowing for Asta's new power that he learned during the time skip, based on what happened in the final of the Spade arc with his anti-magic. So maybe Lucius is not cleaning himself but also healing. Now we come to what Lucius said. He tells Asta that he only has a few minutes to live. Of course, as always, this could have a hidden meaning, which Tabata likes to use out of context, so we can't really understand the meaning when we're just reading the chapter, but only later when things are revealed that connect to that moment. On the surface, Lucius simply meant that Asta will die because of the injuries he received. His tremendous blood loss will be fatal in a matter of minutes. It could be as simple as that. But why would he let Asta live for a few minutes? He could have used the moment to eliminate Asta and make sure that the only flaw in the world, as he calls Asta, disappears forever, which would make Lucius' plan 100% fulfilled. Why is he being so careless with it? Of course, it could be the typical villain mistake where they just arrogantly don't finish the job and then the hero somehow survives. Although that would be cliche, but definitely possible. But then we would have to get an explanation as to why Asta might have survived this magic Sister Lily used on him, which then of course draws all attention directly to Sister Lily. Did she perhaps even save him, or rather never intended to kill him with his magic, but rather to teleport him away, for whatever reason? Lucius' sentence could also have to do with the fact that he knew what Sister Lily was going to do and that it was all part of the plan, and that Asta was going to be teleported to a certain place where he will die. Which is why he said that Asta will die in a few minutes and didn't bother to kill Asta right away because he might need Asta alive. And if we take a closer look at this scene from the last chapter, then you can see very clearly that he actually gave Asta a very precise cut, which is fatal but keeps him alive for a few minutes. He could have chopped off Asta's head directly. Judging by the strength, that would have been no problem for Lucius. So there's at least the possibility that Lucius kept Asta alive for reasons still unknown to us. Maybe it has something to do with anti-magic, or with Liebe and or Asta separately. Maybe he even wants to extract Asta's anti-magic in the same way he did with Lucifero before. Then we see Noelle and the other rushing at Lucius, with Noelle using her Sea Dragon Roar. It's interesting that Noelle didn't use the water spirit Undine, although this was definitely necessary, which could be a clue that she no longer has a contract with Undine. Why else did she hold back? It could be that she gave Laura Peshika Undine back, if she can even make another contract with the water spirit because of the water demon magic. We know that Patri never recovered from this underworld influence and his magic remained demonic forever. Perhaps this is also the case for Laura Peshika. Or maybe Undine chose someone else to stay in the Heart Kingdom because she made a pact with the kingdom to protect the kingdom. Noelle would be the best choice of course, but she's from the Clover Kingdom. Or maybe Undine doesn't have a contract at all and just stays in the Queen's Grimoire of the Heart Kingdom. This way there will be no one to control Undine, but at least Undine might still be able to protect the kingdom herself without having a contract. There are many possibilities, but I think it goes in this direction. If Noelle really doesn't have a contract with the water spirit anymore, then the idea is that because Noelle is suitable as a host for the water spirit, that this would allow her to contract Undine whenever she wants. In a way, Undine would be then bound to two people at the same time, one person to keep the contract with the Heart Kingdom in time of peace, and one with the strongest water warrior in the world to keep the world in peace. Even if this is possible, it also means that Noelle was unfortunately not able to train spirit magic during the time skip. I'm sure that Yuno, for example, has reached his final form with his final Godwind weapon, and Fuegoleon has certainly already reached Spirit Dive, respectively Saint Stage, and possibly even far beyond, depending on what is possible. Noelle unfortunately did not have this opportunity, unless she trained in the Heart Kingdom. That is of course possible. Noelle's attack was easily blocked by Sister Lily, but the interesting thing is that Sister Lily didn't use her water magic to block the attack, but spatial magic. And not just any spatial magic, but the magic of one of the three rulers of the underworld, the space devil Beelzebub. And that's crazy. Lucius explains that he incarnated and purified the devil Beelzebub with his soul magic. It seems that he put the soul of the purified Beelzebub into Sister Lily, completing this incarnation. She is not Beelzebub, but also not Sister Lily, but somehow both at the same time, but also somehow neither of them. More about this in a moment. This gives a whole new meaning to the context of the last chapter. Even if not completely, it kind of goes in the same direction that we assumed. Lucius mentioned that he is able to purify the power of the devils, which we interpreted as the redemption of devils, since all devils were originally angels. After some angels followed Lucifer in the holy war against God, they were banished from heaven to hell, giving rise to the term fallen angels, since angels fell from heaven down to hell. Over time, as evil thoughts and emotions consumed their souls, they slowly transformed from angels to devils. So all devils are basically evil angels. By purifying their powers, he will redeem them from their sins and let them return to paradise, so to speak. But Lucius' paradise is not the one in heaven where the angels originated, but the one he wants to create on earth where he is the god. Now about the second thing he mentioned, he said that he learned to transfer the sacred power to human. Here he refers to the purified devil power as the holy power, which again speaks for the redemption theory and the angel theory. But what we probably misunderstood in the last chapter is that Lucius did not say that he can change devils back into angels and at the same time change the form of humans based on soul magic into that of angels, thus uniting both races into a single race, and with it ending the war between devils and humans forever, but rather merges both races together. Let me explain in more detail. From my understanding of the new chapter, it is more like Lucius putting the purified soul of the devil into the body of a human, which he then refers to as bringing this holy power to humans. Thus he will not transform both races into angels, but rather merge both races with each other and thereby create angels. The devils give the essence and the humans give the body. Because of this new revelation, a very dangerous idea arises. In the last review we explained that Asta's demon sword may not be able to reverse the spell that was cast on Sister Lily, because her soul is no longer the same. Lucius explained that magic and the soul are connected. For example, Patry showed no signs of William's curse on his face when he took control over the body. The curse belonged to William's soul and therefore only affected the body when he had control. So basically you can say that the curse was not put on William's body but on William's soul. This then applies to all magical effects. Therefore Sister Lily's body changed according to the purified soul, which Lucius called sacred. That's why she looks like a holy angel. If Sister Lily's soul is no longer the same, then there's a chance that anti-magic cannot undo any magic that has been applied. That is at least a possibility. Of course, there's still the possibility that it could work. We don't know. But now we know that Lucius actually took a whole new soul and just put it into Sister Lily. Though we don't know exactly what happened to Sister Lily's soul. Now there are two possibilities, one of which could be very dangerous. Either Sister Lily's soul is gone and has been exchanged with Beelzebub's purified soul, or Sister Lily's soul has been merged with Beelzebub's soul, which I think is more likely. Let's talk quickly about both possibilities. If we assume that Sister Lily's soul was exchanged, then Lucius must have replaced or somehow stored Sister Lily's soul somewhere, as he did with Beelzebub before putting his soul into Sister Lily's body. Now to the dangerous aspect of this possibility. If Asta in this case will try to use his Demon Destroyer sword on Beelzebub Lily, and if it is indeed possible to undo the effect of soul magic with a Demon Destroyer sword, then this would have no effect on Sister Lily's soul, which is no longer in the body of Sister Lily, but it would have an effect on Beelzebub's soul. So if his sword really works, this would cause Lucius' soul magic to be undone. And thus, instead of Sister Lily returning, Beelzebub's purified soul will be turned back into a devil, allowing Beelzebub to manifest 100% in the human world. That would be a terrible thing. The second possibility is that Lucius took the purified soul of Beelzebub and then fused it with Sister Lily's soul. I personally find this possibility much more likely for several reasons. First of all, it will not just replace the soul but create a whole new soul, which could mean that Asta's sword would have no effect at all. Also, this would fit much more with Lucius' overall goal of recreating humanity. Lucius wants to save the humans and not to replace them with purified devils. So it wouldn't make sense if he just let the souls of the humans disappear or somehow lock them up or banish them. Furthermore, this possibility would also explain why Beelzebub Lily appears to have retained all of Sister Lily's memories. She knows people's name, talks to Asta if she actually knows him, and acts very much like Sister Lily. Even the same movement. Look at this. This is exactly what Sister Lily always does with her hand. This shows that Sister Lily is not just gone, but rather that her soul has been changed. And it makes sense because Lucius said that the mind is part of the soul, and any memories are part of the mind. That's how he was able to manipulate Julius' memory in the first place. And now, of course, the thoughts of his newly created beings. Sounds logical. Lucius then goes on to explain that he has taken control of the remaining supreme devils of the underworld, which pretty well explains why they just let him do his own thing. Not as we have assumed because they support him, but because he simply controls their souls. Or controls those souls who will not voluntarily support him. So how many supreme devils does he have under control now? If Lucius does not know how to revive dead devils, then Lilith, Nama, and also Luciferus should be dead. I am sure that Megicula did not die, so with that and the fact that the Qliphoth has 10 devils, that leaves 7 devils. Which by the way could fit well with the 7 deadly sins from demonology, and then again with the 7 days until Judgment Day, which Julius will mention later in the chapter, but more to that in a moment. If we count Lucius, respectively Astaroth, as an additional devil because Megicula actually took Astaroth's place, we are left with 8 devils. And if we consider the possibility of a twin devil named Molech, which we haven't seen yet, but which nevertheless often appears in demonology, there could be even 9 devils. If we then take into account that we know that, for example, Reyes, who possesses a kind of soul magic, could put the soul of a dead person back into a body, there's a possibility that Lucius could have done the same with Lilith and Nama. This brings us to a number of 11 devils. We can even increase this number to 12, since the Qliphoth has a hidden position in demonology, which was also hinted at in Black Clover, which is why there are 11 magic stones, with one position being represented as a twin, so 12. Why I push the number 12 has something to do with the Paladins of the legends. You will find out why a little later. But for now, let's get on with the chapter. I give the mic to Yami, he continues, have fun.
Alright, Lucius goes on to say that he has taken control not only of the remaining Supreme Devils, but also of all the others in the levels below. The way the fan translation puts it, it almost sounds like there are more devils below the Qliphoth, which doesn't really make sense. I think the true meaning might be that instead of referring to the levels of the underworld, the word level was used more for like the hierarchy of devils. So, Lucius controls not only the Supreme Devils, but also all devils who have a lower rank. Lucius plans to recreate humanity in this way, which is why he needs a lot of devils. In demonology, many high-ranking devils are described as rulers of hundreds of legions, and a legion consists of about 4,000 to 6,000 devils. So that's easily 50,000 devils controlled by a single high-ranking devil, not necessarily a supreme devil. So we are talking about a number in the millions. But of course, it all depends on Tabata and how big he wants it. I think he has enough devils to easily fill all the bodies of all 4 kingdoms, and thus literally create a biblical paradise on earth where he is the god. Speaking of God, in the last review, we mentioned that Lucius literally became God, and this chapter really underscored the idea. More on that in a moment. Lucius says that these newly created beings are nearly invincible, which at first points to the idea of the immortal body, though not literally immortal, but perhaps the spell is not yet complete, similar to what happened with the reincarnation of the elves. So when the spell is finally completed, perhaps they will then become truly immortal, and we've even been given some sort of deadline that might relate to when the spell might be completed, and that's 7 days, as Lucius mentions later in this chapter. Lucius goes on to say that Sister Lily is the first of this new higher life form, as we predicted in the last review that Sister Lily would be the first of the immortal body spell. Lucius refers her as a paladin. The way Lucius phrased his words, it makes it seem like Paladins does not refer to a race, since he referred to Sister Lily as the first of a kind, even though he himself possesses such a form as well. Rather, it seems that Paladin is a title Lucius gives to the people who has received the soul that originally belongs to a supreme devil. That is why I still think that they are angels. Everything points to this idea: the halo, the angel wings, the white clothes, the purified devil power. Nevertheless, the term paladin could be very important because, as we know, Tabata uses such terms for certain reasons, often as references from mythology and other areas. So of course, we have to take a look at paladins, and this is a big topic. Before I continue with paladins, I would like to point out that it makes no sense to present the whole context of paladins because it is similar to demonology, where there are many different systems and interpretations, especially because there is a historical view of the paladins and one that has turned into legends. Before we can really understand which version of the paladins Tabata is referring to, we have to wait for further development of the plot regarding the paladins in Black Clover, because so far we only have the term and no other clues. So for now, we'll have to explain the basic idea and maybe a few small ideas that we have. A paladin, as I said, is not a race, which is why an angel can also be made a paladin. In fact, it's a title that is given to very powerful beings. It is also often associated with holy powers when it comes to legends. Based on this description, it makes little sense that Lucius would call a weak devil angel a paladin, which is why we believe that this title is a replacement of the Qliphoth devils. So it is quite possible that Lucius has in mind a number of paladins who will serve directly under his command and will always be close to him unless he sends them on a mission. And this idea fits very well with the understanding of the paladins. When talking about paladins, they are often associated with the number of 12. So the so-called 12 peers. That's why early in this video we tried to reach the number 12 when talking about the Qliphoth. It is believed that this number has something to do with the 12 apostles, which is why the paladins give their leader a similar position to Jesus as a reminder of his sacred mission as a ruler. This in turn fits perfectly with our idea that Lucius sees himself as God. He's on a mission to save the world and bring true peace, at least as he understands it. This would also fit with why Lucius calls Sister Lily the first paladin, because they fight for the world. Also, the paladins are often associated with Christianity, which also fits perfectly with the whole idea of religion in Black Clover, at least in the Clover Kingdom, which is obviously a reference to Christianity. For example, the 3 leaves represent the 3 theological virtues: faith, hope, and love. We have the churches, the Christian symbols, and so on and so forth. So paladins and angels make sense in this regard. The 12 paladins are so close to the leader that they sit together at the round table, the table being round to symbolize that all 12 paladins are equal. No one is above another. According to this conception, when it comes to the supreme devils, the hierarchy of the underworld would cease to exist, which also fits to Lucius's plan. These 12 paladins are often associated with the same people, mentioned by name and described in great detail. So we have the possibility to predict things in Black Clover based on the description of the paladins, similar to what we did with the Qliphoth devils from the demonology. But as I said, for that we need to wait for more details to understand what exact paladin system will be used. Of course, we already have some ideas, such as that Yuno is very similar to the leader of the paladins, called Roland, or sometimes Orlando. The reason why Roland would fit so well with Yuno is that Roland led a poor peasant life until he was taken in by the king after his true identity was revealed. Similarly, Yuno was revealed to be royalty. It is also said that Roland is the son of the leader's sister. It would be crazy if this were the case, that Yuno's mother only survived because she has a connection to the Zogratis family. That would explain why Yuno and Zenon look so much alike, as if they are from one family, just different bloodlines. It is a fact that the Green Burial family, unless they practice incest to keep the family magic along themselves, must marry people from other families. So who knows, maybe Yuno's mother is somehow related to the Zogratis. Maybe there's even a greater intrigue. Otherwise, why did she survive? There could be many possibilities. Of course, we know that Yuno's mother has a cosmic magic, as described for the Green Burial family. But it is up to you whether you believe that Yuno's parents are actually related and thus engaged in incest. But let's just not delve into that too much right now, because we don't have any real clues about the Paladins yet. It is also interesting that Lucius mentioned that in 7 days the Day of Judgment will come. Of course, the Day of Judgment is one of the most well-known things in the world, at least when it comes to the Abrahamic religions. It is basically the final judgment of God on all people who have ever lived. In this case, Lucius is the god who brings on the judgment upon the world. Some believe that the Day of Judgment might even have something to do with the resurrection of the dead, which would certainly fit with the plot of the immortal bodies in Black Clover. There could be many reasons why Lucius has mentioned 7 days. Remember the number of devils we mentioned at the beginning of this video in connection with the Qliphoth? The following is the reason why we did so. If there are a total of 10 Qliphoth devils, then with 3 dead devils, Lilith, Nama, and Lucifero, and with Megicula replacing Astaroth, only 7 devils remain. It could have something to do with the 7 deadly sins, with Lily, that is Beelzebub, being the first. Beelzebub is referred to in various versions as one of the 7 deadly sins. In one version, he is the deadly sin of pride, and others call him the devil gluttony. So perhaps the 7 days in the context of the 7 days of destruction, as opposed to the 7 days of creation of earth, are an allusion to the 7 sins that Lucius refers to as Paladins, where every day one sin of the humans, which is considered to be the cause of preventing peace on earth, is released, whereby it does not really matter which devils are used for the 7 deadly sins, it must not necessarily have a reference to demonology. Along with the idea that 7 days might refer to the 7 entities, it might even be possible that the idea of the origin of the word paladin has something to do with it as well. The word derives from the Latin word palatinus, ultimately from the name of the Palatine Hill. Palatine Hill is referring to the 7 hills of Rome. Perhaps each of these hills represents a battle, location, or event that will take place during the 7 days in Black Clover, and in which the Paladins will be involved. Similar to the 7 gates of hell in the Spade Kingdom. Every day a gate should be open. Perhaps every day a new place becomes the scene of the event, with a Paladin being chosen. But enough about the Paladins. Let's continue with the new Black Clover chapter. Lily acts very much as if after all she is Sister Lily, but has an understanding that normal people don't have, as if Sister Lily has understood that Lucius' plan is actually right. But of course, we know that these are just manipulated thoughts. It could be that this is actually Sister Lily speaking, but she's not aware that her understanding does not correspond to reality. The moment she tells Asta that he must die, she uses Beelzebub's magic and Asta is suddenly gone. In the context of what Lucius said, at first it makes it seem like she might have just killed Asta, but as explained earlier, the situation is a bit more complicated. We only have 2 possibilities here. Either Asta is dead or Asta is alive. If Asta really did die, then there must be some sort of explanation as to how Asta will come back to life. He could end up in some sort of afterlife, and then he'll be revived for the final war. Perhaps some kind of entity will give Asta his second life under certain conditions. Again, there are infinite possibilities. It could be that he actually ended up in some sort of afterlife. He will be trained there for like 7 days until the doomsday comes, and then he will return with a new crazy power. Maybe even with a holy power. If that is the case and Asta really did die temporarily, then maybe the death has something to do with the prophecy Julius told Asta. Julius said that either Asta would die or the Clover Kingdom will be destroyed, or both. With the idea of Asta dying and being trained in the afterlife for the 7 days, that would mean that his death was necessary for him to become stronger, so that he would then return on Judgment Day to defeat Lucius. In this case, if he had not died, he would not have the ability to train with higher powers, which would also prevent him from protecting the Clover Kingdom, and thus the Clover Kingdom would be destroyed. Thus, all the conditions of the prophecy would be fulfilled. Then there is the possibility that Asta did not die. This possibility can again be derived into 2 different interpretations. Either Sister Lily managed to control the body for a brief moment, and instead of teleporting Asta somewhere he would die, she used her last remaining will to teleport Asta to a safe place where he could be healed instead. If it ever turns out that Sister Lily's origin in Black Clover is important and possibly related in some way to Asta's origin, Sister Lily may even have teleported Asta to where she came from, where Asta might get more answers about who he really is. This place could save his life, provide him with the training and so on, and ultimately be the reason the world would survive. In this regard, it is also interesting that Noelle repeated the same phrase twice in this chapter. She said, "You're Asta's." What? I wonder what could she mean by that? It could be anything. from a simple word like friend to something that could show Sister Lily might be related to Asta. Maybe Noelle found something about Asta's family history. Let's just at least consider the possibility that Noelle knows something about Sister Lily in relation to Asta that she can't reveal because it might be a secret, which is why she didn't finish the sentence even if the possibility is small. The second interpretation of the idea that Asta is still alive is related to what Lucius said at the beginning of this chapter, that Asta is only alive for a few minutes, but it didn't look like a few minutes have already passed since the moment he said that, and he didn't order Sister Lily to kill Asta either. So that speaks to the fact that Lucius and Sister Lily and that all the other souls that he controls are somehow connected, so they understand Lucius's will. At first, it looks like Lucius meant that Asta would just bleed to death and die from the injury Lucius inflicted on him in the last chapter. So what was the point of Lily giving Asta the final blow in the first place if Asta can't survive anyway? Unless, of course, Lucius saw the captains were on the way to him and would save Asta. That's why he ordered Lily to kill Asta or teleport him away. Or, as already mentioned at the beginning of the video, it could be that Lucius still needs Asta for the final step of his plan. At the end of the chapter, we see all the captains rushing towards Lucius, but before they can arrive, Lucius disappears. That's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.